Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. Happy Valentine's Day out there. We're going to be updating you on this winter storm and severe threat that has intensified. So let's start off with the latest up here off the West Coast. And you can see it's raining at the lower levels this morning, but it's all snow flying with winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings blanketed across the West Coast. We also have another trough complements of more heavier snows in the mountain regions of Flagstaff down through Santa Fe, up through portions of Durango, and that even sneaks into Denver. And there's a swath of snow with our snowstorm going to be blanketed across portions of Kansas into Des Moines. And I think this will be just extended into the Chicago region, overtaking Madison. But there's also another blanket of snow falling this morning in portions of Billings and also into Bismarck. And we've got blizzard conditions that are going to be breaking out into the Fargo region later this afternoon. So down further to the south, we do have a Pacific front that's moving through. That's complements of very high winds in this region. But there's the warm front. This is the warm front that's blanketed across Texas. That's the system that's going to be moving northeast. And as it does, it's going to be lifting those warmer conditions all the way up into Michigan, into Ohio region, putting this whole sector into a severe threat. Into the northwest, you're on the cold side and you get the snowy side. But man, it is windy. Look at the map. It is lit up. Look at all the brown shaded areas. That is your wind advisories. And the winds are cranking down here to the south. But look, where that warm front follows, that's exactly where the winds fly to. So it is going to be a very windy time, to say the least, over the next couple of days with these active troughs that are moving through. But check it out, just a couple of days ago, look how quiet it was, right? This was back on the 10th. And this is Valentine's Day, the 14th, guys. That's 4 days. You know, when it's eerily quiet like that, things are only going to get worse in the days to come. And that's exactly what's happening here as the atmosphere has really started to take over. It's all complements of these two significant troughs. So here's the first ones that set up shop across the southern plains here. That's bringing all the heavier snows to the mountain regions, but all the windy conditions as well. And this is the first trough. It's not as potent, but this is still complements of bringing some heavier rains this morning into Texas and Oklahoma through Kansas, where they kind of desperately need it. But back behind it, there's another even more significant trough. It even already has kind of a hook, and that's why they do have those winter storm watches in place up here. That's the system that's going to be diving down, causing all the severe threat and increasing the snow levels and the blizzard that's going to be coming up for portions of the Dakotas. So if you are new to the channel, like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button. If you're in, you get all my daily content on this channel. And we only have 2 more days of this code through Valentine's Day, really to tomorrow. The Tempest WeatherFlow weather station, they have the most significant code of the season. This is the most I've seen it off. It's if you use the code BEST WX, you do in fact get $40 off and free shipping. So if you've been on the fence of purchasing one of these Tempest WeatherFlow weather station, now's the time, because it's only good for 1 more day on the 15th. If you liked one, you could purchase it at my link below, and also have it in the description below as well. But look at the winds. I mean, this is really significant, guys. I mean, yeah, it's going to be very windy, to say the least. I mean, even some of these wind gusts could be approaching easily hurricane force winds up here into the portions of New Mexico, and even in the Texas Panhandle. But all these areas are red over the next 36 to 48 hours. I mean, look at the swath through Arkansas, through Missouri, through Illinois, all the way to Ohio, through Michigan. I mean, the severe threat can extend even that far north. So there's reds blanketed across the West Coast. We've got about 75% of the country could experience, at some form of fashion, about a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust. About 75% of the country. That is kind of rare to do. That shows you how significant these troughs that are be coming in with a kind of a 1-2 punch that's going to be moving across the country. So it's all complements of this low-level jet. This is the second system that has the hook shape right now off the West Coast. By the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, it really moves across the middle of the country, and this jet stream just gets cranking, and that we've got a lot of shear at the surface, and the severe threat has increased, unfortunately. So the low pressure center is going to be really kind of taking shape across the mountain regions of New Mexico, portions of the Texas Panhandle through Kansas, but especially into Colorado. You get crushed with heavy snow, and it's not just western slopes. You got eastern Colorado as well, and even Denver could easily pick up 4+ inches of snowfall from this system as this will move across. But it's a 1-2 punch with severe threat with all three modes of severe storms. And the initial setup, unfortunately, looks like a big time hail threat. So I'm looking at the 5,000 temperatures up above, and it's got a lot of cold air aloft. And it's going to be clashing within this warm sector with cold air aloft as these storms rise and potentially could break the cap down here in East Texas. Those could be fairly significant and big time hail producers, especially between the 5 and 10 o'clock time frame. Going into tomorrow afternoon. So let's take a look at the setup, and this is the newest update from the Storm Prediction Center. Does in fact have that hatched risk. Hatched risk means basically has the potential of 2-inch plus hail variety. That is large, if not very large hail, because we're starting to get model congruency, not only from the global models, but a lot of the short range models as well. As things come together, the system has slowed down its timing with everything, with weather, and we've got a lot of instability that's going to be literally breaking out late afternoon into the early evening time frame. The initiation looks to in fact start over North Texas, and it definitely has that potential. They do have a strong cap in place. But if that's able to poke holes and those storms are able to rise, they could easily climb to 60,000 feet, and that's where you could have some significant hail. So the atmosphere is capable of large to very large hail within this sector of North Texas into East Texas and southeastern Oklahoma. And I think that's between the 5 and 10 o'clock time frame. The atmosphere will be rotating in East Texas and down here portions into Shreveport, into Arkansas, and it becomes an overnight threat into the wee hours of the morning within this sector all the way through Memphis. So it's a bumpy ride, especially starting 5 o'clock through the evening time frame into the overnight. So yes, it's all complements of this first initial system. So that's the system that's off the West Coast this morning. By the time we head into Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, this trough becomes more or less kind of positively tilted trough. But down here further to the south, you got a lot of lift associated with it. There's a lot of shear at the surface. And if that cap breaks, all bets are off for, big time hail threat down here in this region, and the atmosphere will be rotating. So you do have tornadoes, and definitely I showed you the winds. I mean, the winds are definitely by far going to be cranking in a good part of the country. So, but back behind it, we do have a significant cold front, and that's your saving grace behind that, behind the initial system. So it's going to be a bumpy ride for about 5 hours within your city where you live in. But once the cold front moves through, you're gonna be in the clear. So these are temperatures as you wake up on Thursday morning. All the areas in blue right here, see off the West Coast, Intermountain West, Upper Midwest, through Canada. These are all temperatures below freezing, and this is the warm sector out ahead of it. Temperatures, these are morning temperatures, guys. I mean, it's not normal to have 68 degrees there in Mississippi for in basically the middle of February, right? And that, look at the warm sector extending all the way up to Indiana, through West Virginia, through Ohio. I mean, you got dew points in the mid 50s reaching as far north as Michigan. That is crazy stuff and very unheard of this time of year. But there's a significant snowstorm on that northwest side. So here's the snow level. So we got the West Coast, we got the initial swath coming in with that hook right there, right? Along the West Coast into Oregon and portions of Northern California, probably 2 to 4 inches with this system, but really higher amounts as you extend into Flagstaff, portions of Albuquerque, into Santa Fe, especially like the Durango area, the Denver area, getting into portions of far extreme Texas Panhandle there, into Kansas, through Kansas, portions of Des Moines here, all the way through portions of northern Illinois, through southern portions of Wisconsin. There's a pretty good swath right through central and northern portions of Michigan. Noticed here further to the south, there's no snow whatsoever. You're in the warm sector, and everything north of this boundary, you're kind of in the cold sector, right? But here's the probabilities of seeing at least possibly 4 inches of snow, right? So here's the probabilities. Obviously, here's the graph on the left-hand corner of the screen. All these areas in deep red, that's about 90-100% probability, at least 4 inches plus. So it's, you know, these sectors within the higher mountain regions, but even here into Denver, like, again, there's a pretty good possibility, a 70% possibility you could get at least 4 inches or more with this system. And all these areas in blue are at least 50 to 60 to 70% swinging through. Even Chicago could pick up 4 inches, right? Milwaukee into Grand Rapids, these areas. And then you have the blizzard maybe conditions up there in the Dakotas, through the mountain regions of Montana into Wyoming. So it's got a pretty good snow swath. It's going to be coming, you know, with this system, and a lot of impacts too as well. So even these areas down here with this snow swath, there's going to be pockets of levels of that you could be seeing major winter impacts with this system, with all the heavier winds. It's a combination of heavy snow, and then the winds are going to be cranking with this system, and it's a long duration event. These winds are extended for a long period of time. I got probably 12 to 15 hours within a lot of these regions. So there's going to be pockets of levels of moderate to major risk for winter storm impacts within this zone. So definitely be on high alert. It's going to be a treacherous travel for the next couple of days for sure, before things kind of wind down on Friday, and especially into this weekend. But as that system moves across into the southeast, I mean, look at this. I mean, we have a slight risk for severe weather in the middle of February that extends all the way up through Ohio, through Indiana, through even portions of Pennsylvania and upstate New York. I mean, this is pretty rare, guys. I mean, this is very, you know, I don't see this very often. It's been a long time to see this risk like this far north for the middle of February. This is just very rare. I mean, you typically see severe weather down here in the southeast, right? But once you get past Tennessee, it gets kind of iffy. But yeah, this severe threat could easily extend into Kentucky, through, you know, Indiana, through Ohio, as easily a damaging wind threat. And then we got to be concerned about tornadoes on the southern side of this. From this particular setup going into your Thursday. It's all complements of that secondary trough that comes in. It does go in positively tilted, so it doesn't look like a kind of a widespread tornado outbreak or anything like that, but it is a pretty significant threat. It does have tornadoes on the southern region. It does have a damaging wind. It's just the real estate that it covers from this setup with, you know, the combination of these two troughs is coming in. A lot of states are going to be impacted from the form of damaging winds, to heavy snow, to large hail in areas, and then you have the isolated tornado threat. It's definitely a high impact event. A lot of travel delays, a lot of air travel delays tomorrow, Wednesday, heading into Thursday, you know, before things kind of calm down. So here's the setup into Thursday afternoon. You got the snow flying up here to the northwest through portions of the northern Illinois regions, southern Wisconsin, getting up into northern Michigan there. On the south side, you get pockets of kind of a squall line that breaking out. So you have to worry about anything that kind of separates it from these individual cells. But when it's a squall line like that, it's typically more of a damaging wind threat, and then you can get some isolated tornadoes or two on the leading edge of this kind of squall line. But these things are going to be racing across. You're going to have a little to no warning with this type of setup, but it's going to be a pretty significant punch for about 5 hours probably in your area before you can signal the all clear. And then once the all clear, the clear sign is the cold front. Once the cold front moves through your area, that's when you can say, hey, I can take off the alert mode and be uncomfortable mode. Right? So here's the tornado threat as this comes through. This is the NAM 3K. It only goes out 60 hours, so it does only go extending into Thursday, and I think this will easily extend it further east. But it shows you the instability, a little bit more rotation further south into Mississippi, you know, heading into Alabama. That's the main culprit. And like I mentioned, within this leading edge, you can't roll out an isolated tornado within this leading edge of this squall line. But everything moves off to the east. This isn't severe by the time we get into Friday afternoon along the East Coast, but you still got some rain and instability as this squall line will move through along the East Coast here up through the I-95 corridor. Notice behind it, there ain't nothing going on, right? It's pretty much clear on the back side. So that leaves a very nice weekend. It's not all about bad weather, guys. I mean, there's plenty of nice weather, and the weekend is going to be amazing, not just for parts of the country, but for a good part of the country. It's hard pressed to find any rain whatsoever in anywhere along this map. So it's going to be a very nice weekend heading into Saturday. Going to be a very nice, even into the day on Sunday. There's going to be pockets of rain in places, but at least 90% of the country will kind of be high and dry even on Sunday. So it's a very nice weekend in tap. In fact, look at some of the temperatures, right? Here's the temperatures, not even that cold. I mean, it's hard pressed to find a high temperature even below freezing, even as far north as the Dakotas, right? So there's no Arctic air in place this week. This is going to be a kind of a nice week on once this system moves through by Thursday. It's a nice weekend and ahead. So definitely there's things to look forward to. But going into next week, that's when things really get interesting again. So I'm highlighting this because here's the setup, because this is going to looks to be another possibly significant event. We're going to have the Southeast Ridge coming back. I mean, we got the cold front now coming in on Thursday. Boom, the winds turn around and we warm up big time by the middle of next week. Easily. We're going to be back into the 70s and 80s down in this region. Southeast Ridge is going to fight. But this time, we got Arctic air pressing in from the north. And that's a battle zone, guys. And you've seen this movie play out before. That's an ice setup. That's a dangerous ice setup and snow setup, but it's definitely an ice setup as that cold air is dense. It sinks. And the Southeast Ridge will be fighting. And even the Northeast is cold, right? So that's a game changer. You're not in that Southeast Ridge this time. So this Arctic air is going to be pressing south as we head into the next week, fighting this Southeast Ridge all the way. So it's going to be definitely setting up a battle zone. So we'll be talking about that and fine tuning that as we head into next week. So things will definitely be interesting again after a nice weekend ahead. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.